You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast at savage.love.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Hey everybody, I am not going to open the show this week by commenting on the Trump assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, because I don't have an interesting hot take besides guns are bad, and so is he. You come to a show like mine for a break from news and politics, and if you want a full blast of politics from me and a guest, you can always listen to Sex and Politics, that special bonus podcast we do for our Magnum subs. But all I really want to say right now about the news that's dominating every podcast but mine is let's be kind to each other, and let's do everything we can to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. Everything we can except for that. All right, let's shake it off. I'm going to talk about something else now. Actually, Nancy, give me a little bit of the opening music so we can just restart.
Well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
We lost two pop culture icons this weekend. First, Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Dr. Ruth was a hugely important figure in what we now call the sex and relationship advice space. She was also really an icon in pop culture, and I was an admirer of hers. Everyone was. I want to say, may her memory be a blessing, but there's no may about it. Dr. Ruth's memory, definitely a blessing. We also lost Richard Simmons this weekend, the diet and exercise guru in the short shorts and sparkly tank tops. Simmons' death made me remember all the gay men in public life who weren't out because they couldn't be out, but who, like Simmons, who wasn't out, refused to hide. People like Paul Lynde. He was an actor. He was a famous one. He played Uncle Arthur on Bewitched, and for years he occupied the center square on the game show Hollywood Squares. Here's one of Paul's most famous moments on that show.
When a man falls out of your boat and into the water, you should yell, "Man overboard." Now, what should you yell if a woman falls overboard?
Full speed ahead.
The casual misogyny, the suggestion that being gay means loathing women or wanting to live in a world or be on a boat without them. Not great, not funny, also not true of gay men, not even true of Paul Lynde, whose best friend was Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, the titular witch on Bewitched. But maybe funny at the time, funny in the context of those times, and aggressively, assertively, and unapologetically out. As Lynde was to the game shows of the 1960s and 70s, ubiquitous and very, very queer, Simmons was to the talk shows of the 80s and 90s. And Simmons, like Lynde, refused to dial it back for the comfort of straight people who wanted to pretend gay men didn't exist. Glenn Weldon, who's the co-host of NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour, posted this to social media after the news of Simmons' death broke over the weekend. As a kid, I idolized David Letterman, patterned my speech and sensibility after him. I also knew that I, like Richard Simmons, was gay. Richard did Dave's show. Dave was predictably withering, bullying, cruel. But Richard didn't care. Richard stayed Richard. Blithely, insouciantly, queerly. Richard taught me more than Dave ever did. I watched those episodes with Simmons on, episodes of Letterman when they first aired. Like Weldon, I never missed a Letterman episode in the 80s. And yeah, Letterman mocked Simmons. And by showing up, by giving as good as he got, Simmons modeled something for us that at the time, as an out gay man and an impatient out gay man, impatient for change, impatient for fully out gay role models in the media, at the time I couldn't quite appreciate what Simmons was doing. I thought Simmons was a clown. They called him the Clown Prince of Fitness back then. It made it into the headline of his New York Times obituary on Sunday. And like a lot of gay men at the time, I thought he was kind of an embarrassment, a throwback. I watched some of those clips of Richard Simmons on David Letterman this weekend. And I gotta say, I feel a little differently about them now.
We're going to be going door to door, talking to people about various things, and look who I brought with me. Come on.
Hi.
Look. There you go.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
If this doesn't bring the cops, I don't know what will.
Hello.
Richard, you're going to get shot. Don't do that. Come here. You know, Richard is a fitness guru.
I know.
That's why he has his little guru outfit on.
Not only can I see more clearly and appreciate more clearly what Richard Simmons was doing, I can also see more clearly and appreciate what David Letterman was doing. Letterman, a boy from a small town in Indiana, was, yes, mining his audience's discomfort and his own discomfort with Simmons for laughs, but he was also exposing his audience to Simmons and himself to Simmons. And in a way, whether it was intentional or not, Letterman was working through his discomfort, processing his discomfort and his audience's discomfort with the existence of not just an outrageously camp gay man who never said the words out loud, but with gay men in general. He was helping his audience work through their homophobia, whether that was his intention or not. So Simmons was radical in a way that I, an impatient, radical, young, out gay man, couldn't appreciate, couldn't see in the 1980s. Like Lind, Simmons was an important and necessary transitional figure. No Lind, no Simmons, no Liberace even, no Matt Bomer, no Lil Nas X, no Jonathan Bailey. So, I'm not as angry with Letterman as Glenn Weldon. Letterman was working through something that a lot of straight people at the time needed to work through, and some of the jokes were mean-spirited, yes, but I could see on Letterman's face as I watched these clips this weekend, a certain admiration for Simmons, a certain respect. It never came out of Dave's mouth, but you could see what he was thinking play on his face. And what he was thinking as he looked at Simmons, as Simmons insulted him back, as Simmons refused to dial himself down, what you saw on Dave's face was, holy shit, the balls on this guy. All right, Magnum subs, our next Savage Love Live, a regular Zoom hangout exclusively for Savage Lovecast Magnum subscribers. Thursday, August 1st, 2 p.m. Pacific, so 5 p.m. on the East Coast, and early enough still for our friends and listeners in Europe to join us. I will be taking questions live on Savage Love Live. That's the whole point of live in Savage Love Live. But you can send your questions in now at savage.love/askdan. Remember, there is nothing you can't ask. Our last Savage Love Live, man, it was kind of amazing. If you're a Magnum subscriber and haven't been coming to Savage Love Live, you're missing out. Be sure to come to Savage Love Live. Watch for the email invite in your inbox the morning of Thursday, August 1st. All right, coming up on today's show, tons of your Q's, lots of my A's, and on the Magnum Savage Lovecast, science reporter Sadie Dingfelder has written a fascinating new book about face blindness, a condition she only discovered she had in midlife. And since I've wondered, actually all my adult life, whether I myself am face blind, I had to have Sadie on the show. We talk about the challenges of dating when you can't recognize people and how people with no visual imagination masturbate, what goes through their minds as they masturbate. It's a fascinating conversation for our Magnum subscribers. To become a Magnum subscriber or to give a Magnum subscription as a gift, go to savage.love and click on subscribe. All right, Magnum subscriber or micro subscriber, we love you all and the show for everybody. The questions, they start now. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Dipsea. Dipsea is an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. Get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/savage. This episode is sponsored by Hims, affordable access to ED treatment all online. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/savage. This episode is brought to you by Helix Sleep, the very best mattress designed with your comfort in mind. Get up to 30% off a mattress purchase plus 2 free pillows at helixsleep.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. Magnum sub here, first time caller. I'm mid 30s, married guy in the mid Atlantic. I did not think this would be what this situation would be, what would motivate me to put a call in, but I'm encountering an odd situation with a longtime and good friend of mine. I've known her since high school, so over 20 years now, and I'd say I know her very well. Some background, she has some mental and emotional health issues, quite a bit of family trauma in her history, and she's currently not being treated by a therapist or medication. I've encouraged it, but that's another story. She's also known to be overly dramatic about many things throughout her life, and I've often been a bit of a crutch or support system for her. So for the past few months, on top of many other crises in her life, she's been dealing with what she has called quote-unquote heart issues. She never wanted to talk much about it, and I respected that. And until yesterday, my limited understanding was that it was tachycardia, essentially an elevated heart rate. And while I'm certainly no doctor or expert, it personally made sense to me that might have been related to her untreated extreme anxiety. She has panic attacks, is overall just very anxious. She also did tell me once that she was on beta blockers, which were making her feel very tired. So on the phone yesterday, she was exhausted and not making much sense verbally, presumably due to lack of sleep. And she told me that she has quote unquote heart cancer and made me swear not to tell anyone. I reacted compassionately, of course, but also tried to ask some questions as this was very heavy news. What kind of cancer? What stage? Are you in treatment? Who's your doctor? Etc. Based on her responses, I immediately was skeptical, though. Something just didn't seem right. All she said was that she had a good prognosis, had undergone one chemo treatment, and her doctor thinks that was sufficient. Again, I'm no expert, but the information she gave and didn't give added to her history and my long-standing friendship with her, something feels off. Of course, I know I'm not entitled to any of this information. She can freely share or not share what she wishes, but it was quite intense. I'm not sure what to do. Please know I'm really not trying to be an asshole by not believing her. I feel terrible that I don't believe her, but having known her for 20 plus years, there's something that's not adding up. I'm just curious if you have any suggestions on how to respond, if I should do anything to suss out the truth.
I'd never heard of heart cancer, so I Googled it, and the first result that comes up is the Mayo Clinic's entry on their website about heart cancer, which is headlined, "Heart Cancer. Is there such a thing?" The answer is yes. Quoting from the Mayo Clinic, most tumors that form in the heart aren't cancerous, but some heart tumors can be cancerous. Heart cancer, however, malignant primary cardiac tumor, is extremely rare. One study reviewed more than 12,000 autopsies and found only 7 people with a cardiac tumor. And at the Mayo Clinic, where they treat many, many, many people with rare conditions, they only see 1 person with heart cancer on average in a calendar year. The odds that your friend, with their history of trauma and your friend not being a reliable narrator of their own life, being one of those rare people with heart cancer who sought treatment and is now magically cured, all right, maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know why. It's on you to figure out whether your friend is telling the truth or not. You have a friend who has mental health issues and challenges, who sometimes vents to you, and sounds like sometimes they say things that are true. Sometimes perhaps they exaggerate. Maybe sometimes they invent for attention, or maybe they're not in their right mind and they believe these things to be true. But so what? If it isn't true, what are you supposed to do about that? There's nothing you can do about that. You're not going to go to your friend and slap them if it's not true. And if it is true, your friend got chemo, got treatment, she says, and is all better now. So there is nothing required of you. Seems to me that you're doing everything in this circumstance that a friend that she might need in her life 20 years after getting to know you in high school, everything that she needs, which is just someone to talk to, someone out there who's going to pick up the phone and listen to her. So everything that you need to do, you already did. You don't have to solve this mystery. You don't have to run it down. You don't have to Google heart cancer like I did. All you've got to do is what you've already done, which is listen to her.
Hi, Dan. A long-time listener here and first-time caller. I am a mid-30s cis gay guy living in the United States, and I'm having a not-so-sticky problem with my beautiful new boyfriend who I've been dating for the past few months. The issue is that for all the sex that we've been having, I still haven't seen him come. And there's two main reasons for this, as far as I can tell. The first is that he had an adult circumcision, which was apparently due to some frequent tearing that he'd been having, and he hasn't learned yet how to come with a partner since the operation. But he does say he has been able to come while jacking off by himself with porn. Secondly, however, I think it might be more of a mental block, because during sex he seems to get really close, and I can tell he wants to come so bad, but he tends to get in his head, and in that moment he gets frustrated, and there's usually no coming back from there. Importantly, though, he does always make me come, which is great, so no complaints there. But usually as soon as I'm finished, he jumps up and gets dressed or showers, and it's kind of the end of it. He deflects the attention away from himself. My issue is that I really want to talk about it some more, and I want to make sure he knows that I'm there for him and happy to give him whatever he needs. Prioritize his orgasm, give him as much time and stimulation as he needs. But I want to do that in a way which doesn't focus on it too much, because I don't want to create some kind of dynamic where he gets more in his head because he's feeling the weight of my expectation. My question is there a way I can actively help him try and solve this without putting too much pressure on it and making it worse? And generally, do you have any advice for guys who are learning to come again after surgery, or generally to overcome mental blocks like that? I feel really great about this relationship, and I'm happy for the first time in a long time. I'm falling in love, and this isn't a deal breaker for me, but please, Dan, I'm also a cum-hungry slut, and I want to get bred by my boyfriend.
This isn't about coming, but it is about finding the sweet spot. Sometimes when I'm with my boyfriend, he has to go away for work, and when he goes away for work, I get sad because I'm going to miss him. But when I get visibly sad, or I tell him I'm sad about him going away, he feels like he's being guilt-tripped. And so I began kind of not letting it play on my face, not seeming sad at all. But I didn't want him to think, and he didn't want me to think I was indifferent to his absence, and just finding that sweet spot in between sad to see you go, or in your case, sad to not see you come, and gonna miss you, is hard. It's hard to land on that particular spot. And similarly, the spot that you need to land on is right in between. I would really like you to come. I'm a cum-hungry slut. I want you to breed me. I want to get bred by my boyfriend. And I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't want to make the getting into your head problem any worse. So it is okay if you don't come, ... I don't think it's going to be okay with you if he never can come in your presence or in your pussy ever. So that's what you have to communicate to him. Look, I am not indifferent to your pleasure. I would like you to get off for you. I would also like you to get off for me. And I want to put that out there, but in such a way that lets you know that we can take as long as we need to take, and there's no rush, there's no pressure, and ... And then revisit that every once in a while and refer to it. Now when my boyfriend has to go away for work, what we say is, I am not going to be indifferent to your absence. And it's just a way of acknowledging that I'm trying to land in that sweet spot in between being visibly sad and making him feel guilty, and not betraying at all that I'm going to miss him, which of course I am going to miss him because I'm not indifferent to his absence when he goes away. All right. What you say to your boyfriend is, I want to get bred by you at some point. No rush, no hurry. Whatever it takes, tell me what it takes. And we know that your boyfriend can come because he can come when he is alone. And when he's alone, he can come or not come. He can take as much time as he needs to take. He can provide himself with whatever the stimulation it might be that he needs. He can also, and this often helps with people who have difficulty coming with partners, he can be focused on something else, something outside him. Maybe he's watching porn and he's not involved or implicated in porn or really having to perform in porn. People are performing for him. Figure out, talk to him about what works, what he's doing when he's coming alone. This is a little advice I've given to people who have anxiety about coming with a partner but are able to come alone, is to do this elaborate series of kind of baby steps where if he can come when he masturbates, okay, he should masturbate and come without you there. And then he can masturbate and come with you standing outside the door, and he can masturbate and come with you in the room. Not sex, not performance. Just he gets to close his eyes or watch porn or do whatever it is he does when he's alone and he can come. It's just you're there. And if being looked at by you at that moment puts him in his head or makes it harder for him to come, put a pillow over your eye, blindfold yourself. So you're there, you're breathing, you're next to him, you get closer to him. Maybe at some point you start to hold him, but you're not watching him. And then he will gradually become desensitized to your presence. Maybe the performance anxiety will begin to abate. He'll begin to associate you being there with him with pleasure and feel more confident in his ability to climax with somebody else there and in the room because you've been there and in the room, and be able to make that little last jump to coming during sex with you. Another thing, another approach that you can try is, you say he always gets you off. Down the road a little bit, maybe after you do this masturbation trick that I've heard from other people has worked for them with partners with this kind of performance anxiety and problem of getting in their own head, have sex with him where you don't come at all. You're just going to have sex and there's no getting you off. There's just pleasure, exploration, fucking around, and your orgasm is decentered. You'll come later, you'll come next time, but it's not about you coming or him coming. It's just about you both enjoying each other. But if anybody's going to come, it's going to be him, but not a forced march to his orgasm. If at some point he's done or wants to tap out or go have ice cream or just be done, he can be done. He can call it. Right now he calls it when you come. But for him to be able to call it on a night when you're not going to come, or maybe you masturbated 2 hours before you began to fuck around with him, he may relax into him being the focus, even if he's not under pressure to come at that moment. You can get there, and I'm sure he wants to get there. And with your encouragement and your effort to land in that sweet spot in between indifference and pressure, you'll get there with him, and you will get your cum-hungry gay pussy bread.
This episode is brought to you by Dipsea. Dipsea is an app full of hundreds of short, spicy audio stories. They bring scenarios to life with immersive soundscapes and realistic characters. Discover stories about second chance romances, adventurous vacation flings, and hot and heavy hookups, all voiced by amazing actors. Oh my God. And there's a growing library of fantasy series for you nerds with werewolves, Greek gods and goddesses, Regency-era historical fiction, and fairy smut to explore the bounds of your pleasure. New content is released every week, so in between listening to your favorite stories again and again, you can always find something new to explore. Dipsea offers a modern approach to romance through high-quality and captivating audio fiction. And in addition to the great stories, they have a sexual wellness section. You can be guided step by step through different masturbation techniques or learn about erotic breath work. And when you're all done, click on over to the sleep section for soundscapes or listen to Dipsea characters tuck you in. These creative Dipsea folks take self-care to a whole nother level, I'll tell you what. For listeners of the show, Dipsea is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/savage. You should do that right now. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to DIPSEA stories.com/savage. dipseastories.com/savage.
Hey Dan, straight cis guy from the East Coast here, looking for some help making jealousy fun. Context is I'm in an open relationship with my wife. It's been working really great for us. I have been dating a queer lady for about a year. She is in a long-term relationship with a woman. All of us get along great. It's been really fantastic. One of the dynamics with my girlfriend is sort of a brat dom thing. She, acts out in various kind of made-up ways, and I punish her for it, spanking and stuff like that, and it's awesome. Works for everyone, really turns our crank. Development is my girlfriend has a friend with benefits who comes into town a few times a year. She has known him since before we were together. He comes into town, they have sex. It's, all that is great. And I think that would be sort of a non-issue if we basically left it like, great, have a good time with him. Don't try to make it part of our brat dom thing. But we gave it a swing to, have that be one of the ways that she is, quote unquote, acting out. So, texting me that she's going to see him, that he fucked her, that what am I going to do about it, all that stuff. And one part that super sincerely worked for me so well, like got me super turned on, got me really excited to see her, all that stuff. And one part, like, just actually sincerely hurt from a jealousy point of view. One of the things that happened was she texted me a photo of marks that he had left on her from spanking her. And I think she thought that that would kind of be the cherry on top of this, like, crescendo of bratty dommy thing. And in fact, that just kind of like sincerely hurt. I'm a bit older. I have 2 kids. She does not have kids. And so I think one of the things I'm like, my jealousy brain worries about is like, am I going to be the old shoe, etc. Sincerely, my rational brain does not think that at all. We have been together for a while. I am not sincerely worried that she's going to leave me. But in this dynamic, that stuff just hurt in a way that made it not fun. And so, yeah, it could be that we gave it a swing. We decided it doesn't work for our bat down dynamic, but I wanted to get your help maybe in trying to figure out a way to like work up to it, or I get my head around it in a certain way that makes it all fun, bratty dynamic for her to see and fuck and get spanked by this guy and have it work for us. Or maybe it's just something that we leave on the table.
When you're figuring out or trying to figure out with somebody, especially when you're exploring a new sexual dynamic, when you're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, you sometimes land on what doesn't work. And you take the lesson from landing on what doesn't work and you move back towards what worked, and you set aside, because who knows, what didn't work might actually wind up working for you at some point if you are one of those people who grows into eroticized jealousy. There are some people out there who experience jealousy in this kind of relationship with this kind of dynamic, and the first time they experience it, it's too hot. Jealousy is such a difficult emotion to process, and it's sometimes really hard for people to distinguish between erotic jealousy, kind of anger jealousy, or fear-based jealousy around being left or replaced, and good jealousy, kind of jealousy that makes you desire your partner more because you're seeing them through somebody else's eyes, or a kind of eroticized jealousy that you can put into harness to serve your connection with your partner. But learning how to deftly sort of identify those different kinds of jealousy and figure out what kind works for you, what kind doesn't, if any kind does at all, that's a process that does involve some trial and error. All right, so knowing she was fucking this other guy, knowing her friend with benefits, this connection that predates your relationship with her, knowing that guy was coming to town, that worked for you. Seeing the picture that she sent of the aftermath of that guy coming to town, of the marks that he left on her body by spanking her, that didn't work. It's interesting and might be instructive to figure out why it was that the photo that just told you what you already knew to be happening had happened, why that got under your skin in an unpleasant, jealous kind of way, in a fear-y, scared, jealous kind of way, when knowing it was happening but not seeing the evidence didn't. What would the answer there be? This is me asking. I could speculate. I don't know. I don't know why seeing the photographic evidence was different. There was something about knowing she was with her friend with benefits, and apparently you knew that he fucked her, and maybe you didn't know that he also spanked her. Maybe you thought the spanking that you engaged in, the punishment with the brat dynamic, that was unique or special to your relationship with her. What was it? And if you can identify what it was, you're in a safer place to continue to explore this dynamic when her friend with benefits comes back to town, because you can direct things toward what worked, and you can set aside what didn't work, wall off what didn't work, not do what didn't work. And who knows, maybe in time, getting a picture like that might work for you in a way it doesn't now. Maybe as you grow more confident in the relationship, maybe as she's fucked around with her friend with benefits a few times and hasn't discarded you like the old shoe that you fear that you might be or might be discarded as at some point. When somebody, you give somebody freedom to, and you don't need to give this person freedom. You're in a committed relationship, but not an exclusive relationship. But the fear when you are in a relationship with somebody, whether you're opening up a previously closed relationship or making space in a relationship like the one you described for previous partners or new partners, there is this fear of being left. And yeah, sometimes that fear is rational and realistic. And sometimes you do get left. That is a risk we all take at all times with all of our sex partners. Wedding rings, no wedding rings, commitments, no commitments, poly, no poly. That's always a risk. But the longer you're with somebody and you give them freedom to go do something else and you're worried you're going to get left or discarded and then they come back, maybe your fear of that negative potential outcome, maybe it becomes less intense. Maybe it abates. And then the next time you give them that freedom to go off and fuck somebody else or fuck this person again in this case, and your partner, your brat, your sub-brat comes back to you, you feel less fear. And then maybe the photograph that the first time your brat sub secondary partner ran off and messed around with her FWB, that first time that photo dredged up unpleasant feelings of jealousy that you weren't able to put into harness to serve the erotic dynamics of this relationship. Maybe a photo 2 years from now and 3 or 4 more hookups between your brat and her FWB. Maybe that photo 2 years from now will crank you up in just the way that she hoped it would crank you up this time. So I wouldn't rule out photos forever, but I would definitely right now rule out photos. Well, hello there, penis havers. Sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and you never know when you're going to have to use your dick. We always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom, and Hims has the treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments, such as chewable hard mints, proven treatments like Viagra and Cialis, or their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is simple and 100% online, no uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment options for you. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you and ships for free. No insurance is needed. Pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. Hims has hundreds of thousands of subscribers that trust Hims. So if ED is getting you down, it's time you find the option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/savage. That's HIMS.com/savage for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/savage. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
And I've got a question about butt stuff. So I am a 30-year-old lady, and I have not done a lot of butt stuff at all. The most is like, honestly, dudes just sticking fingers in my butthole occasionally. And I'm like, okay, this feels kind of weird. Honestly, like putting a finger in and out of my butt just feels like me like pooping over and over again. Kind of a weird sensation. Anyways, last night, though, I had a guy really going for it, and definitely the most anal stimulation I've ever had. He was essentially finger banging my butthole and actually really like stimulating my clitoral network in there and on the backside of my G-spot. And it felt good. It was definitely cool and exciting to experience, just like peek into a new world. But afterwards, my butt just felt like, or my anus felt really sore, And that's like almost like I could feel the pressure in my butthole after his finger wasn't there anymore. And it just felt really uncomfortable. And that pressure just feels similar for me to the pressure that you get in your butthole when you have to poop. And so it just afterwards, I just felt like I had to shit all night and just didn't feel good. So I'm wondering, is that something that goes away after you do it a lot and your butt gets used to it? Or is that just how it's always going to feel after butt stuff?
Fingers are the worst butt toys. That's why I never mention them. When I talk about butt toys, I talk about tongues. I talk about vibrators, dildos, butt plugs, whether they're inserted or a powerful vibrator laid across an asshole, not jammed into an asshole. Talk about dicks, but rarely, if ever, do I include fingers on that list. Fingers are bony and narrow, and they have fingernails at the ends of them. They just don't feel as good. Sometimes people think that something narrow and skinny like a finger is going to feel better than something a little bit wider, like getting a butt plug in or a dildo in or a dick in. But actually, experienced people who really enjoy butt stuff, often have a no finger banging policy. There's just something random and chaotic about fingers where, yeah, they're a little harder on the sphincter, push back and forth against it and across it and into it in a way that a nice, solid toy does not. I would encourage you, if you're interested in anal pleasure, anal stimulation, to back way the fuck up and take anal penetration off the menu for now and explore just stroking, lubing up your butthole, touching your butthole, having your asshole licked if your partner's into eating ass, and putting a vibrator against your asshole while you're masturbating, maybe with another vibrator, and having a few orgasms where your ass is also in play. So there's this association, this neural pathway is carved between anal stimulation and pleasure as opposed to anal stimulation or pressure and feeling like you need to poop or a negative sensation or anxiety around shit. That really helps. And then you can explore penetration again, but not with fingers, not with a lone finger or a solo finger. Get yourself a nice, a little bit wider, a little bit thicker than a couple of fingers, silicone butt plug to explore with. And yeah, you're always going to feel something after butt play. The more butt play you do, the better able you will be to distinguish between the feeling that you sometimes feel in your butt or your butthole when you need to poop and the feeling that you sometimes have in your butt, your butthole, after you've had a really great butt play session. Right now, the only time you're probably consciously aware that you can feel something in your butthole is before you have to poop. And now you've had this experience where you could sense your butthole, feel your butthole after this play, and you were like, I can feel my butthole. That's a poop thing when I can feel my butthole. The more you do it, the easier a time you'll be able to have distinguishing between the sensations. Right now, they're all just kind of rounding up to, I got a poop sensation. And yeah, play some more and you'll be better able to tell the difference, but lay some things in to play with that aren't fingers and you will have a better time. This episode is brought to you by Helix Sleep, makers of the best mattress in the world, also known as my favorite place, my mattress, where I wish I was right now and will be soon. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, the Helix Plus, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress, designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep experts. To figure out the best mattress for you, go take the Helix Sleep Quiz online. Just takes a couple of minutes. Your personalized mattress will be shipped straight to your door, free of charge. And for peace of mind, Helix offers a 100-night trial so you can try out your new Helix mattress and a 10 to 15-year warranty. Terry and I love our Midnight Luxe mattress because it is big enough to accommodate both of us, also big enough to accommodate very special guest stars, and that mattress can handle everything and everyone we throw at it. And when it's time to sleep, it is by far the most comfortable mattress we've ever slept on. Helix is offering up to 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/savage. That's helixsleep.com/savage. 30% off. This is their best offer yet. It won't last long. Go get that new mattress, because with Helix, better sleep starts now.
Hello, Dan. I am a cisgendered male, 35 years old. I split up with my wife last year. We were married for 8 years, and it was amicable and hard to get over, but I'm at a point where I'm starting to date again. And I was a stay-at-home dad before we split up, and I wasn't working. And I jumped at the opportunity to take some time off because, I'm really fortunate to be independently wealthy, essentially. Like I don't really need a job. And before starting to get back on the dating market, I thought that this would have been a strong quality of mine, as something in the positive column. But it turns out it's actually quite negative, at least in my experience. I feel like talking about not having a job is like confessing to a crime. There was one date where I actually thought that she was going to just walk out the door, because it was like, you mean you don't have a job? And I try to explain that, like, I have some money, I'm highly employable, I'm a data scientist, I have a great resume. Anytime I need a job, I can go out there and get one. And again, I'm just really fortunate in that respect. But it really upsets me. And one of the reasons it upsets me is because, to me, not having a job and not needing one is like success in life. And I hate working for these corporations, and I'm so thankful that I'm not tied to these jobs. So I guess the question is, how do I talk about this? I feel like people don't believe me when I say that, I don't actually have to get a job. And it's not like I have, my lifestyle is great. I have a nice apartment. I have a car. I go out to eat. I went snowboarding 25 times this season. I just bought a mountain bike. Like, I'm not broke. Like, how do I talk about it? What can I do?
You're saying to these women, the women who've had negative reactions on these dates, that you don't have a job. Right now, you don't need a job. You say that you're not broke. You have a car. You have a place to live. But what you said to me, what you said in your call really early was, you're independently wealthy. That's different. If you are omitting that, the women that you're saying, oh, I'm not broke, or I don't need a job right now, to may not fully grok your circumstances. They may hear I was a stay-at-home dad and I'm not working and think, bum looking for another meal ticket, bum looking for a woman to take care of him, somebody that he can, when whatever money he does have, because he's not broke, but that does not mean am rich, runs out, that he can move in with and who will take care of him. And these women that you're on dates with may not want to sign up for what they assume they might be signing up for if they continue to see you, because there's a vast gulf that it opens. There's a chasm stretching wide between not broke and what that conjures up in people's imaginations or the assumptions people might make, and independently fucking wealthy, which conjures up very different things, and sometimes for some people, very desirable things in their imaginations or in the assumptions that it might make about you or what being in a relationship with you might entail. A woman hears, I'm not broke, I don't have a job, but I have an apartment and a car and I just got a mountain bike. Yeah, they may not want to take on the responsibility of being your meal ticket, which might be the assumption that they're making. But hearing that you're independently wealthy, yeah, that may attract some women that you don't want in your life or in your bed or in your bank account. But it might set the concerns of some women at ease if you connect the dots here, if you paint the full picture, if you stop burying the lead, it's not that you're not broke, it's that you are loaded. All right, time for a little listener feedback. First up, some of the comments left on last week's show in the very lively comment threads at savage.love. Says Parain, the caller who is having trouble enjoying sex after realizing she's a lesbian after years of straight partnered sex, I really urge her and similar folks to Google authentic consent. Gray/ace folks, adults with essay histories in childhood, people with really entrenched gender or religious norms, we all do a ton of damage to our psyches by having sex we're uncomfortable with, but that through pressure to be normal, we say yes to anyway. Says Ted the Bellhop, Andy Richter is an American treasure. Him chuckling that infectious chuckle while Dan quipped about keeping the dick pics coming put a huge grin on my face during an otherwise very tough day. Glad the show helped you get through that very tough day, Ted. I feel the same way about Andy. I love Andy Richter. I always have, and I was thrilled to have him on the show. And finally, got a lot of compliments and congratulations from everyone in the comments about pegging making it into the OED, which it did as both a noun and a verb, as By Dan Fan pointed out in the comments. And a great follow-up question, also in the comments, from Slow Mo Pomo. So do we know who exactly gets credit for coming up with the term? We know now, Slow Mo Pomo, because your comment inspired me to go look it up. A reader who signed himself Straight Boys Have Prostates Too wrote me in April of 2001 and asked why the sex act he enjoyed most, a woman fucking a man like him in the ass with a strap-on dildo, didn't have a catchy one-word name like almost all other sex acts. It was a reader in a follow-up question, Paris P., who came up with the name that won the reader poll. That name for that sex act, of course, now in the OED, pegging. I posted all 3 original columns, the one where the contest got kicked off, the one with the suggested names for that sex act, and the one with the results of the reader poll, all posted to Struggle Session on Thursday. Struggle Sessions usually for Magnum subs, but I am taking that Struggle Session out from behind the paywall so all my listeners can find the links to those 3 original columns. There are lots of hilarious suggestions, lots of funny also-rans that pegging beat out. Worth your time to go read those columns. Also taking it out from behind the paywall so Straight Boys Have Prostates Too and Paris P can get the credit they deserve. Go to savage.love, click on column, and you will find Struggle Session right under this week's brand new Savage Love. And a little more listener feedback for you now on the show, listener response calls.
Hi, Dan. In episode 923, a teenager reported that her parents were snooping in her room to find her sex toys. She should take one of her toys and put it where it's not too hard to find. She should attach to it a big red label that says, "Hi, Mom and Dad, this is my vibrator. I know you're very curious, so I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have." The caller may find that parental snooping goes into a sharp decline after this.
Hi, Dan. This is in response to episode 923, the woman who, when she's having a professional massage, orgasms. She says that when her partner gives her a massage, it never happens, but it always happens with a professional. In the massage room, she can fully relax. You know, I think you go off the rails when you say that a stranger touching your body, heightens your arousal level. I think the salient point is that there's no expectation of intimacy. Hence, deep relaxation. And maybe a suggestion for the woman would be to take intimacy off the table up front if she's having a massage from her partner. Anyway, that might lead to more massages and more understanding.
Hi, Dan. You've had a few episodes talking about the shittiness of dating apps and how we gotta get out into the real world. And I wanted to agree and also share something about volunteering. I have a group of hot female friends who I dirt bike with. Last month we did a dirt bike race, and after the race, one of my friends invited me to the volunteer debrief session at the local pizza parlor. And we're there, and I was like, girl, why are we here? We're just like eating these people's pizza and getting in the way. And afterwards, she explained that we were basically scouting for Dick. The guys who volunteered are all really good dirt bikers who basically gave up a race weekend to pick kids' bikes out of the bushes. And like no douchebag would do that. So yeah, volunteer. It's an ungameable system because even if you're a shitty person, volunteering makes you a less shitty and more fuckable person. And people like my friend will find you and sleep with you.
And we're going to leave it there. We've got 3 ways for you to get us your questions or comments for future shows. You can record your questions or comments at savage.love/askdan, or you can make a voice memo on your phone and email us your question or comment to q@savage.love, or you can call our landline and leave us a message at 206-302-2064. Porn lovers, Hump 2024 Part 2 is coming to theaters this fall. You can get discounted early dirty bird tickets for Hump 2024 Part 2, which is going to be playing in 40 theaters all across North America starting in September. Right now, you can get those early discounted tickets at humpfilmfest.com. That early Dirty Bird discount is available till August 1st, so you're going to want to go get your tickets now. And while you're on the website, humpfilmfest.com, be sure to click on Submit to find out how you can get your film into Hump 2025. Follow me on Instagram and Threads at Dan Savage. Follow me at Blue Sky at Dan Savage. And you can still follow me on the Bad Boys at Fake Dan Savage. Follow Sadie Dingfelder on Threads and Instagram at SadieFD. And you can learn more about her book and read all of the rave reviews and order her book on her website, Sadie.com. Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Artunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We will all be back at you next week, another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thank you as ever for downloading.